There's kind of two topics we talk about in this hot seat with Ryan, and I think they're both just as valid. So I'll tell you about both of them. The first one is the importance of celebrating clients. And celebrating clients in terms of making them the all-star and also making them the forefront of your marketing, instead of you saying, hey, I coached this person and they did great. No, celebrate them, celebrate their strength, their fortitude. It's going to be much more effective and also make them feel better. The second topic that we talk about here is actually more about personal wealth. And so Ryan is, after he joined the mentorship, was able to afford to buy a house, which is wonderful. But now he, of course, has this existential stress of like, what if this all goes away? And I can't afford the house anymore. I lived in a small apartment beforehand. And so we talk about that. We talk about personal wealth. And so this is a bit of a wide-ranging hot seat. We cover both of those. I hope that you enjoy it. Without further ado, here is my hot seat with Ryan. Mr. Ryan, you are up, my friend. So Ryan, same thing. Real quick, talk about who you are. Talk about how much time it takes you every day to work on your amazing mustache, and what we're talking about today.
All right, gotcha. Yeah. So, first of all, most days it takes me zero time because a lot of times I just don't fix it. But as far as the business, I work primarily with parents, most of those being moms. And then, as far as what I wanted to chat about today, I really had two topics in mind. One was actually something that I talked about with Jason Maxwell a couple of weeks ago. So, this year has been just like an absolutely amazing year financially so far. So I've had 3 record months already this year. And then the 2 months that weren't record months were still better than any month that I had from, last year going backwards.
Cool.
And so everything has just been awesome financially. But the weird thing that has happened is instead of that, like adding more motivation to like keep pushing past that, it's
Okay.
had this like weird opposite like rebound effect where
Mm-hmm.
instead of setting bigger and bigger goals, it's almost had this weird like, oh, I just hope I can keep this up and like not
Right.
want to go backwards.
Right. Yeah, your normal has moved.
Right.
And now there's fewer that you've gotten used to it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anything else? I can I
I
can I
think,
can tackle that one for sure.
yeah,
Talk
I
about
think
that
that's
one
the
till the
main
cows come
thing.
home.
I do want to briefly touch on some content stuff next, but that's the main thing I
Mm.
want to talk about.
I got some good ideas, because your submission here with all the information you put in was more about content stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got a couple notes of stuff and quick hit ideas that I think will make a big difference for you that we can hit on really quick at the end. So but more the philosophical stuff. Uh, when so so this is funny because when you've achieved stuff that you probably never thought in your wildest dreams you'd achieve,
Right.
and you've gotten there, which is amazing, and you realize that two things happen. One is like, oh, is this it? I thought that everything was going to be perfect and there was going to be a happily ever after, because that's when the movie always ends, right? and
Mm-hmm.
then and then the second is that you realize that even though you've set a goal, the second that you hit there, the goalpost just moves.
Right.
And one of the keys is to get the goalpost to stop moving. Number one is to figure out what that point is for you, and you may not be there. But the second is just to get really good at savings. One of the reasons why I'm still in coaching and why I still work with coaches is because I think that coaching is one of, if not the best business model in the world. And I think that because it kicks off so much cash when done right up front. Most other business models might kick off cash in the back end or anything like that. Um, when you have money up front and you invest it and you save it, you don't live beyond your means. The problem is when people start making money, they start spending more money. Well, if you can resist that, you can set yourself up really, really well. So the first is more like figure out how you want to live and where that goalpost is. But the second is whether it might make sense to learn about some wealth management stuff. Um, I mean, what's like, I don't have like a savings rate, but I took a lot of time a number of years ago, and I could recommend some books and things like that to establish my own personal philosophy towards wealth generation and money. And there's no right or wrong. Is that something that you've ever looked into, or it's nothing we've ever spoken about, but is that anything that you've ever looked into or studied?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. Um, I'm not much of a spender, to be honest. If I ever do spend something, it's usually just on a coach or
Sure.
on something for the business or something like that. So as like far as like wasting the money that I take in, that's not really an issue at all. I think one of the things that kind of has contributed to this is we're actually starting to build our house. Like I can actually see out the window, like
Oh,
them
cool.
pushing around dirt for the groundwork out there. And I
Yep.
think that's one of the things that has kind of contributed to it because up until now, like the house we're renting, my parents own it. And so they're not charging us a whole lot of rent.
All
And
right.
so the house we lived in before this was like a super crappy house because at that point in time I wasn't making a lot of money.
Yep.
And so it's like I've never had a lot of living expense. And now we're, going to be building a house that's going to be like, 750 grand by
Sure.
the time it's all said and done.
Yep.
And I think just going from like, less than $1,000 a month living expense to three
More.
quarters of $1 million house,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah. Yeah.
that's part of the contributing factor there.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So I mean, this is where the freedom number comes in. It might make sense to do that equation again for
Right.
sure. But you're way above that. I
Right.
mean, I can tell you right now, my mortgage is $1.4 million. Like that's what my mortgage is. And so my monthly payment on the house is a lot. Um and that contributes, right? That's just part of the conversation. Um but learning how to kind of tackle some of these thoughts and say, because a lot of it is like, that you're okay and you're going to be okay, but unless you really quantify what that is, it can kind of take you down. But I'll send you a couple recommendations for books and things to read, and they're not like economic books. They're not books with calculations and things like that. It's more about let's build a philosophy towards how we think about money. For example, my philosophy is I'm okay not being as rich as I might otherwise be, but
Right.
I'm not okay getting taken out of the game. And so I don't know what's going to happen. I think that there will probably be some major economic upheaval at some point in my life because the wealth gap is just way too big at this point. And I'm scared of that. And whether it happens or not is kind of irrelevant. I don't want to live my life scared of that.
Right.
And so what I've done is I'm not betting on any one thing. What I've done is I've accumulated slowly over time assets in a whole bunch of things that almost oppose one another, like some gold, some Bitcoin, some real estate, some conventional stocks,
Mm-hmm.
and then some cash, right? Uh, and none of it is an optimization process, but it's more just like it's more just mental clarity than anything else.
Yeah.
Um, and yes, Bob, I'll share the books in the group afterwards. I mean, The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel is always my first recommendation. So I'll say that. But there's a few. Um, Let me give you a couple really quick hit stuff on the content, because you do a really, really good job sharing client successes and sharing client testimonials on your Facebook page. The there's two suggestions that I have is, one, make your client the real all-star.
Hmm.
Like you're celebrating them, but you're not really making them the all-star.
Hmm.
You're talking about how great they've done and stuff like that. Um, I would take that to a level 10 and say, "Oh my God, isn't Kim great? Look at this. Look, she overcame all of this stuff with 2 kids. And holy crap, look, there was a period a couple months back where a bunch of
Hmm.
people got sick and it's hard for anybody. But because what you want then is you want a whole bunch of people going in there celebrating her. You're just the
Hmm.
conduit. You don't matter. Don't say anything about with my coaching, she did great. Nah, none of that. It is her. She is the all-star. She showed the strength that she showed, the resolve she showed. She did the work.
Right.
And that's what matters. The second is it's all well and good for you to post something about how great she did. It's a whole different ball game for her to post it.
Right.
So something that Mike Dola did, co-author on book of mine, The Wealthy Fit Post Guide to Getting Clients, something that he did with his company Stronger You, which if anybody knows the story, I mean, it was just him. He worked at a bank, started training people on nutrition, and then within a matter of like, I don't even think it was 10 years, worked up to 80 coaches, sold it for enough money that he never has to work again. And it was all organic. Like it was never paid. One of the things that they did that was so brilliant was whenever somebody lost a bunch of weight or anything like that, he would give them a gift code to go shopping for new clothing. He didn't give them a gift code in exchange for a referral. When they were successful and they lost weight or they hit a goal, he'd buy them. I mean, he had a relationship with them, or his coach at a certain point had a relationship with them and knew which shops they loved and would, I mean, there's like a couple $100. Like, what's it going to cost you to get a new client, right? Like a couple $100. And he'd buy them a gift code to their favorite clothing stores to buy new clothes that fit. And he would also encourage them to donate their old clothes that no longer fit to charity. And he would um he would recommend for them to make a big deal out of it and take pictures and share pictures. And so
Hmm.
instead of him saying, "Hey, can you send me a referral and I'll give you a gift card or whatever to like a coffee shop or clothing store," he's like, "Hey, go buy yourself some new clothes. None of your stuff fits. And by the way, when you do it, take pictures and share them." Because then what's going to happen is now instead of you posting about how great Kim did, Kim's going to post pictures of her in the store buying new clothes because her old stuff doesn't fit. And everybody she knows is going to say, "What have you been doing?"
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Right? Um, and then that happens again when they donate their happens again 2 weeks later once they get their new clothes and then they take their old clothes and they donate them to a charity. They're taking photos of that again. John, again, thank you so much for listening. I really hope that you enjoyed that bit of a wide-ranging conversation with Ryan. We talked about celebrating clients, we talked about marketing, but we also talk about some personal stuff and some stress stuff, right? If you are looking for another episode to listen to, I'm going to recommend you listen to episode 42 right now. It's called 8 Non-Obvious Coaching Truths, and the reason that I recommend this is if you found the personal wealth stuff, the money stuff, a little bit interesting, we talk about the fallacy of passive income. We talk about how to really generate a lot of wealth as a coach near the end of this episode of episode 42. So scroll back in your app wherever you listen to the podcast if you're looking for something else to listen to right now, and have a listen to episode 42, 8 Non-Obvious Coaching Truths. And just so you know, this episode with Ryan was a recording from a hot seat in my high-level mentorship. So if you're a fitness nutrition coach, you're already making about 1,000 online, and you want to scale, then send me a message via Instagram. I'm at It's Coach Goodman that just says mentor, and we'll have a conversation with you, see if it's right, see if it makes sense to have a call. For now, hope that you enjoyed this, and we'll talk soon.